the world of the ancient Greeks. It still speaks to us today through one of its legacies, Greek mythology. It was populated by many gods and goddesses, each with certain powers in the world, and each with a story of their own. For tens of thousands of years, predating biblical times, accounts of the gods and their doings were passed down by storytellers.
It is extremely hard, but one tries to fantasize of what was it like in those days. I think favorite stories of gods must have been, thinking back, what did the child think and was impressed about was, how did Zeus give birth to Athena from a headache? Apollo, who was a very wild young man, who then developed into being the god of order, of music, of art. Poseidon, who would create storms when he was angry. Athena, who was the protector of our capital city and was in favor of peace.
Presiding over all was Zeus, god of the sky, god of thunder.
Zeus is a sky god, and you're in the domain of Zeus when you're out there in nature. Zeus was a jar of good and a jar of evil, and to each man, Zeus would pour out a portion of good and a portion of evil.
There was Aphrodite and Artemis, two sides of the same coin.
Female sexuality. She's a goddess of beauty. She's associated with lots of fertility issues. You have Artemis on the other side. Artemis, who is this chaste virgin.
And Apollo, who, like all the gods and goddesses of ancient Greece, had more than one power.
He is the one who heals, but he also can bring plague. And this is something that happens in the case of many Greek gods. If they can cause something, they can also stop it.
He was there at shooting his bow and killing people from a very far off distance, and therefore his loves perhaps are best kept at a distance too.
These gods and goddesses evolved as the ancient Greeks sought to find meaning, and perhaps faith in an often challenging world. Their stories were embellished and changed over time as different civilizations came into contact with ancient Greece.
Invasions of people from the Middle East and from the North, and each invasion led to not another set of divinities, but so Greek gods are a real amalgam of multiple cultures of the Middle East mostly.
The Greek gods.
But sometime around 750 BC, they were collected, organized, and written down. Although scholars debate whether one author or many authors were involved in this effort, the popular belief is that there was just one, Homer.
As far as we know, gods. Homer gave the Greeks their gods. Homer was effectively the closest thing the Greeks had to a Bible.
In the beginning, Homer tells us, there was Okeanos, a spirit in the form of a great circular, endless river, flowing eternally back upon itself. There was another presence too, Tethys, sometimes called the first mother. When they finally mated, they began the line of descent which eventually produced the gods and goddesses of the ancient Greeks. Some 50 years after Homer, the poet Hesiod composes the Theogony, in which he too describes the creation of the gods. But according to Hesiod, the world began differently. First, there was a supernatural presence called chaos, by which Hesiod means emptiness, not disorder.
Once upon a time, there was chaos, and Gaia slept with, married, mated Uranus, heavens.
Ouranos, however, did not want children. He felt threatened by them and kept them from being born. Gaia conspires with Kronos, one of her unborn children, who castrates his father, presumably from within his mother's womb. Ouranos' severed genitals fall into the sea, from which a surprising entity emerges. Aphrodite, goddess of love. These stories make up what is known as Greek mythology. Derived from the Greek word mythos, it implies something untrue. But for the ancient Greeks, these stories were a matter of faith. They helped explain how and why the world works as it does.
Why are these two things deeply connected? I think that the ancient peoples, and certainly the Greeks, felt that deeply passionate feelings were somehow connected in the human mind and in the human emotions. That is, great desires and great fears or great hatreds were somehow linked.
In this way, the stories and characters of Greek mythology had real-life application. Hesiod's creation story goes on to tell how Kronos frees his brothers and sisters from Gaia's womb. These beings would be known as the Titans, born only after their father has been castrated. The theme of conflict between father and son continues, as Kronos himself now kills his own children.
He took one baby, Zeus, when he was born, and wrapped him up and hid him in a cave in Crete to be raised, and gave Kronos a stone wrapped up in swaddling clothes that he swallowed so that he thought he was swallowing the baby.
Zeus retrieves the rock with which his mother deceived his father. It can be seen even now at the sacred shrine of Delphi.
Greece has been, really until this century, a subsistence economy. And so if you have a small farm, the father is in charge of that. The son, even the first son, is not going to get any kind of rights until the father moves on, retires or dies.
What is the concern there?
After Zeus rescues his brothers and sisters from their father, they seize Mount Olympus. From this stronghold, they battle for control of the world against their father, aunts, and uncles, all of whom are Titans. Finally, the gods and goddesses of Olympus prevail. They acknowledge Zeus, who is also god of the sky, as their king. But human beings have yet to appear on the scene. When we return, the disturbing and provocative arrival of humanity in the world.